very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Raisha Saigal. On the show tonight, we will get you the latest from the Ukraine-Russia war, where Russia has intensified attacks on multiple cities across Ukraine and has pounded Ukraine's Black Sea port of Odessa. This even as Russia and US are set to hold ceasefire talks in Saudi Arabia next week. We will also tell you about how a counter-terrorism probe is underway at the Heathrow airport to examine where sabotage played a part. Also on Gravitas, we will tell you how there are growing voices against baby in Israel. And these are not just Israelis demonstrating against the renewed war in Gaza, but also against the sacking of Shin Bet chief Ronan Bar. And finally, we will tell you about the Karnataka honey trap controversy, where a minister in the Indian state has alleged that as many as 48 lawmakers have been targeted with honey trap. All that and a lot more lined up for you on the show. Let's get you started. Yesterday, Ukraine took a bold step and struck Russia's Engels airbase, home to Vladimir Putin's prize fleet of nuclear-capable strategic bombers. And tonight in Gravitas, we will tell you all the details of its immediate aftermath. Russia has launched a full-scale revenge operation, unleashing relentless strikes on Ukrainian territories, with its forces launching precision strikes on Ukrainian military airfields, command posts, drone storage sites, ammunition-laden military trains and troop concentrations across a staggering 153 areas. And that has not just nullified Ukraine's daring operation, but also made its attack perhaps appear impulsive and reckless. Just take a look at these visuals from Ukraine's port city of Odessa. Russian drone strikes have left a trail of destruction. The city's skyline glows ominously orange, with rows of buildings engulfed in flames. Key infrastructure, residential homes and commercial hubs lie in ruins. Firefighters can be seen struggling to control the blaze. At least 3 civilians have reportedly been injured in this attack, which unfolded as Czech President Petr Pavel visited the city to meet Ukrainian officials. Further east, the situation grows even more grim. In Zaporizhia, the city's governor reported a series of Russian strikes, including a guided bomb attack that injured at least 5 civilians. Similar to Odessa, emergency responders in Zaporizhia are now racing against time to contain the fallout. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian military claimed a massive Russian strike on a gas pumping station in Sudan in Russia's Kursk region. And visuals on your screens right now show a huge ball of fire, signifying the extent of the damage inflicted by the strike. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed that Kiev purposely blew up the gas station, further claiming that the Ukrainian army had been using the facility as a logistics hub and blew it up as a part of Ukraine's retreat from the Kursk area. Ukraine's Air Force claimed that they shot down 114 out of 214 drones launched by Russia in the overnight attack. but the damage inflicted clearly remains catastrophic. On the other end, the Russian Ministry of Defense said that its air defense systems shot down 5 guided bombs, 1 US-made HIMARS missiles and 225 Ukrainian drones, further demonstrating the high stakes intensity of this conflict. Meanwhile, on the battleground, Russia has unleashed its heavy flamethrower system. It's called Tostoshka, aiming to destroy Ukrainian strongholds in eastern Ukraine, operated almost entirely by automated systems. The TOS-2 is a devastating weapon capable of destroying Ukrainian strongholds from 12 kilometers away. Just another reminder of the technological edge that Russia continues to deploy on the battlefield. Now, all these developments also come amidst a crucial time in the 3-year-long war. Russia and US are set to hold ceasefire talks in Saudi Arabia next week. And speaking at a news conference in Oslo, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky confirmed that US officials would meet separately with both Ukrainian experts and Russian representatives next Monday. As violence intensifies on the battlefield, one question looms: can diplomacy bring any breakthrough in this brutal war? With flames engulfing Ukrainian cities and peace talks edging closer, the stakes have never been higher. A major fire, a total airport shutdown, flights are grounded, travelers are stranded, and the financial losses are already rising into millions. Was this just an accident or something far more sinister? Heathrow, Europe's busiest airport, is paralyzed after a fire at an electrical substation plunged operations into chaos. This is the blaze that shut down the airport. But the real question is, was this just an accident? Counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation, raising urgent questions about whether this was sabotage. The fire erupted shortly before midnight, triggering a massive power outage and bringing the global travel hub to a standstill. The Metropolitan Police insist there is no evidence of foul play yet. However, given Heathrow's status as critical infrastructure, the force's Counter-Terrorism Command, or SO15, has now taken charge, vowing to leave no stone unturned. The Prime Minister's spokesperson said that there are questions to answer over how a single fire knocked out Heathrow. Number 10 says they expect those questions to be answered, but the priority is bringing the fire under control. Now, this is the moment of the explosion. Large fire and clouds of black smoke rising over skyline from electrical substation. Listen to what the eyewitnesses describe of absolute chaos at the Heathrow airport had to say.
The sky sort of just blackened, and then I just saw absolute chaos, really. To the right of me, I saw this large plumes of smoke and a huge fire. And as I'm driving, I had my sunroof open, just getting some fresh air. I felt the heat from the fire. That's how close I was. It was definitely scary. I feel it's sort of almost like apocalyptic sort of level of just chaos. When infrastructure is down and there's no controls whatsoever all the way. So my journey all the way home was just with no power.
According to the airport authorities, backup generators did spring into action, but they were not enough to power the whole airport. The power is back at the airport right now, but the passengers are worried as their travel plans have gone haywire. Hotels and pubs near the airport are packed with stranded passengers.
I'm about to go back to the UK, but I think there's an incident that happened in the UK, a fire incident which affected the electricity at the Heathrow airport. So for now, we're just waiting to get information on if we're going to be able to fly back to UK or not. So we're just waiting for the airline to keep us updated.
So we're travelling to Barcelona today. Our initial flight was meant to leave at 10:40 and our connection was at 1:15 today. So we took a seat on a flight to Gatwick to try and enable us to connect to Barcelona through this airport, which we can't do. So our flight that was meant to be scheduled at 1 is now at 5 a.m. So we're now trying to obtain a hotel, hopefully near Heathrow, so that we can try and make our connection in the morning instead.
With more than 1,351 flights disrupted and at least 290,000 passengers affected, the fallout is catastrophic. Planes have been rerouted to Ireland and France, and aviation experts compare the scale of disruption to post-9/11 airspace shutdowns.
You imagine, 145,000 passengers affected. All the insurance claims on those, the aircraft being in the wrong place, the crews being up to time, fuel costs. I mean, who knows? Certainly, 50 million UK is what we're looking at as a bare minimum.
The national grid has now restored power, but the chaos is far from over. The financial toll will be staggering, with ripple effects expected to disrupt global aviation for days. Heathrow's vulnerability is now under scrutiny. Was this a freak accident or something else? Well, we all will have to wait for answers. Israel is in crisis. Its Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu faces growing opposition, not just from demonstrators on the streets, but also from the Israeli president, as well as Supreme Court. Amid massive demonstrations against Netanyahu's decision to fire Shin Bet chief Ronen Bar, Israel's Supreme Court issued an injunction on Friday, temporarily freezing Bar's dismissal. Before this, as his cabinet has moved to fire Israel's domestic security chief, Israeli President Isaac Herzog warned of an alarming political breakdown. It's already clear that Israel is deeply divided internally amid the war in Gaza. Is it now on the brink of an internal collapse? Here's why we ask this. President Herzog's rare rebuke is a sign of deep fractures within the government. On Thursday, Herzog expressed concern over steps taken by Netanyahu's government, just a few hours before the cabinet fired the head of Shin Bet. In a video statement, he said, and I quote, "It is impossible not to be deeply troubled by the harsh reality unfolding before our eyes. It is unthinkable to resume fighting while still pursuing the sacred mission of bringing our hostages home. Thousands of reserve duty call-ups have recently been issued, and it is inconceivable to send our sons to the front line simultaneously, while advancing divisive and controversial initiatives that create deep rifts within our nation," unquote. Without naming him, the Israeli president not only criticized Netanyahu's decision to resume war in Gaza, this while Israeli hostages, including some who are known to be alive, remain in Gaza. He asked decision makers to assess whether the decision to go back to war in Gaza really strengthens so-called national resilience. Remember, earlier this week, Netanyahu announced a return to the war in Gaza, sending in ground troops. This was after talks on extending the truce with the Palestinian militant group Hamas, which had allegedly reached a dead end. But the Israeli president is not the only one questioning Netanyahu's motives. The Israeli public is angry and continued to take their anger to the streets, even if it meant clashing with the Israeli security personnel. On Friday, Israeli demonstrators tried to breach police barriers leading to the Israeli Prime Minister's residence in Jerusalem. They demanded his resignation. They scuffled with police who blocked their access to the street. Footage showed demonstrators chanting, "Time to overthrow the dictator," as anger simmers over Netanyahu's government. In fact, one demonstrator said they were concerned about the last days of Israel as a democracy.
I'm looking at the end of the way of Israel as we knew it in the past. We are very concerned that these are the last days of Israel as a democracy. We are here to try and change this course, but the chances are not very high.
And a day earlier on Thursday, thousands of Israelis braved the rain as well as plunging temperatures in Jerusalem to raise their voice against Netanyahu's decision to return to war, which they see as forsaking the hostages. The demonstrators also voiced opposition to Netanyahu's bid to oust Ronen Bar, head of the Shin Bet Internal Security Agency. But after 3 days of demonstrating against the move, the Israeli cabinet today voted early to dismiss the head of the Shin Bet, effective April 10th. Israelis demonstrating Bar sacking have joined forces with demonstrators angry at the decision to resume fighting in Gaza. In Gaza, Israeli attacks have killed nearly 600. Israel's military says a ground invasion of southern Gaza's Rafah is underway, and troops are pushing into the north near the town of Beit Lahaya and other central areas. And according to UNICEF, at least 200 children have been killed. That's since Israel resumed its war on the besieged Palestinian enclave this week. But even before the latest escalation, Israelis have held regular demonstrations against Netanyahu's government. At this point, it has become increasingly clear that Netanyahu's thirst for blood is not only deepening the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, but it is also exacerbating tensions across the region and pushing West Asia towards instability. Look at the spillover effects in Syria, Lebanon and Yemen. One rather can't help but wonder, does Netanyahu have a long-term strategy for Gaza, or is he just waging a campaign of destruction with no exit strategy? Let's shift our focus to India. A dramatic scene unfolded today in the Karnataka State Assembly, when 18 lawmakers were suspended for causing a disturbance during proceedings. A major uproar erupted, disrupting House activities when allegations of a honey trap scandal emerged, involving a senior minister and 48 lawmakers. The lawmakers who were removed have been suspended for disrespecting the chair. Visuals from the assembly showed several lawmakers crowding around the speaker's chair, entering the well of the house and throwing papers in the air. They demanded a judicial probe into the alleged honey trap scandal. The uproar began after Minister K.N. Rajanna claimed he had been honey trapped and alleged that a widespread network was involved in trapping lawmakers. He stated that several individuals had fallen victim to honey traps in the state and that their obscene videos had been circulated. For context, honey trapping means the use of romantic or sexual relationships to entice a person into revealing information or perhaps to manipulate someone, often for political purposes. Well, here's how the scandal broke out on Thursday. Karnataka Home Minister G. Parameswara announced that he would order a high-level probe into the alleged honey trap attempt. He said that those reportedly targeted were not only from the state's ruling Congress, but also from the opposition, Bharatiya Janata Party.
We have to put a full stop to it. Karnataka legislature has great respect in the country. Even my father was a member of the upper house. Many great personalities had been members of this house. They have made great contributions. To keep the pride of the house, we have to finish this menace. Now Rajana said that he would give a written complaint. Once we receive the complaint, I will order a high-level investigation.
It was the BJP lawmakers who are in opposition in the southern Indian state of Karnataka that stormed the well of the House, raising slogans and demanding a judicial inquiry into the matter. They also tore papers before the Speaker's chair, and some members waved CDs in their hands, claiming they had proof of the alleged honey trap. The BJP members also staged a dharna, which means demonstration, to press for their demand for a probe. The disruption occurred while Chief Minister Siddaramaiah was speaking in the House and continued even after his reassurances. The Karnataka Chief Minister defended his government, saying there was no intention of protecting anyone involved in the honey trap case. He said, I'm quoting here, "It is the government's responsibility to protect anyone in this case. According to the law, the guilty should be punished," unquote. The Home Minister added that if Rajanna complained, a high-level probe would be conducted. He emphasized that Rajanna did not name anyone, and action could only be taken if specific names were given. Earlier, BJP MLA Basangoda Patel Yatnal claimed in the assembly that legislators in the state were being honey-trapped with the intention of making someone else the chief minister. K.N. Rajanna, the minister who made the allegations, demanded a thorough probe. The issue was first raised on Wednesday by former Minister V. Sunil Kumar from the BJP, who accused the Congress government of running a honey trap factory and demanded strict action. The debate intensified when BJP MLA Muni Ratna, who is facing a sexual harassment case, claimed he too was a victim of political vendetta, demanding a CBI probe into the allegations. He said, "You can hang me if I'm wrong, but do not indulge in character assassination," unquote. BJP State President K.S. Isharappa urged Rajanna to disclose the names of the individuals orchestrating the honey trap scandal in Karnataka. Well, let's tell you what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We will tell you how the US President Donald Trump has turned the White House golden. We will tell you everything in the White House is now Trump-coded. We will also tell you about a surprising historical twist hidden in the Egyptian pyramids. A new study indicates that the pyramids were not just for the wealthy and the noble, but also for the poor. Well, as Ukrainian forces execute daring drone strikes deep into Russian territory, their much-touted American fighter jets remain absent from combat footage. Ukraine has received yet another batch of F-16 jets. But why are they not visible on the battlefield? Our next story examines the curious case of the missing F-16s. Take a look.
The skies over Ukraine are alight. Russian missiles, drones and bombs are raining down. Leading the aerial attack for Russia are its MiG-35s and Su-35s. Russia's Ministry of Defense regularly shows its frontline fighter jets in action. The Ukrainian military also regularly posts updates and shows its weapons in action. However, one crucial bit is missing. The F-16s aren't seen in action. President Volodymyr Zelensky announced that Ukraine's Air Force has received a new batch of F-16 fighter jets. Zelensky did not confirm the number of fighter jets delivered or their origin. Netherlands, Norway and Belgium are among the nations which are providing these American-made fighter jets to Ukraine. Russia knows these jets are powerful and has intensified strikes on Ukrainian air bases. Long-range missiles have been pounding runways, fuel depots and hangars, leaving Ukraine scrambling to protect its prized fighters. But protection comes at a cost. Keeping them hidden means keeping them grounded. In August last year, an F-16 was shot down in Ukraine. This happened during a massive aerial attack launched by Russia. Kyiv is yet to release the details of how the fighter jet was downed, which also killed a Ukrainian pilot. Ukraine's airstrips present another threat: pebbles, debris and uneven surfaces. The F-16 is a precision machine built for pristine NATO standard runways. A single loose stone can be sucked into its engine, turning a $60 million jet into scrap. Unlike sturdy Russian aircraft, the F-16 isn't built for rugged conditions. Former Ukrainian Air Force spokesperson Yuri Ignat candidly admitted these fighters lack the technology to engage Russian aircraft in direct combat. The disparity is stark. Russia's Su-35s carry R-37M missiles with 300-kilometer ranges, while Ukrainian F-16's AIM-120 missiles reach barely 120 kilometers, allowing Russian pilots to strike from positions where they cannot even be detected. In terms of weapon power and range, the Russian fighter jet has a definite edge over F-16s. Russia's air power is weaker than NATO's air power, but Russia's war in Ukraine shows it can still cause a lot of damage. It adapts in devastating ways, as it has demonstrated with the guided glide bomb operations against Ukraine. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
On to the US now, where US President Donald Trump has turned the White House golden, quite literally. In his inauguration speech in January, Trump heralded a new golden age of America, and from the looks of it, the Oval Office seems to be his pilot project in that very direction of turning America golden. The somber and stately presidential office, which was once defined by a minimalist aesthetic, has now gone all bling, thanks to a rather shiny makeover that has transformed the look and feel of the Oval Office. Why does it compromise though? Lavish gold accents, gilded trophies, grand portraits, and much more. And all of them seem to be Trump-coded. Through and through, you see, Trump's gold showcase is more than just a display of opulence, as every addition to the room seems to be carefully placed to reflect his own personal brand. Not just that, in an ode to his predecessors, Trump has made sure that the prestigious annals of the Oval Office are decked with a slice of history in every corner, by putting together a wall of fame wherein hangs the portraits of the former US presidents among his very own mugshot from 2023. But if you remember, Trump's obsession with gold or luxury items is nothing new per se. Remember this AI-generated video released by Trump himself last month, which went on to frame his vision of Gaza. The video featured a huge golden statue of the US president, with people standing around and looking up at it. Not just that. Huge skyscrapers lining up coastlines, luxury cars hitting the roads, they were all part of Trump's restructured Gaza vision. The AI video also featured the rather prominent Trump Tower, which is where Trump had announced his first presidential run by descending on a golden escalator in New York. But as per experts, Trump's golden bash could just be more than what meets the eye. Many say, behind Trump's show of pomp and grandeur lies a political message. It reflects in his choice of location, that is the Oval Office, which is arguably the most potent symbol of American power, against the backdrop of which top meetings take place. This also comes at a time when Trump is pretty much unabashed about his annexation plans of Greenland, reclaiming the Panama Canal and taking over Gaza, which is in a way keeping up with his predecessor's expansionist strategy. And now, with his redecoration stint, Trump seems to be giving out a rather powerful message that Trump's touch is everywhere, be it geopolitics or the Oval Office decor. Our next story is about an American who tasted freedom on being released from the clutches of the Taliban. I'm talking about George Gleesman, whom the Taliban held hostage in Afghanistan since 2022. But what made him a captive in the first place? As per a New York Post report, Gleesman, who is an Atlanta native, was wrongfully detained when he visited Afghanistan as a tourist in December 2022. Almost 3 years later, the 65-year-old airline mechanic was finally freed following negotiations brokered by Trump's special hostage envoy, Adam Bohilia. Taliban official and Qatari officials, they also helped in his freedom. On Thursday, Gleesman left Kabul for US through Doha. Taking to X, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio congratulated Gleesman and welcomed him back to the US. He also viewed this deal as a positive and constructive step towards US-Afghanistan ties. However, Rubio also remarked that Gleesman's release also serves as a grim reminder of the fact that other Americans are still detained in Afghanistan. You see, since the Taliban rose back to power, toppling a US-backed Afghan government in August 2021, the US and the Taliban government no longer share diplomatic relations. And this is where Qatar's intervention becomes more important. As a key mediator, the US State Department further said it was still seeking the return of 6 American detainees in Afghanistan and the remains of 1 American. But whether or not they were wrongfully detained remains unclear. Still, important to note here is the fact that Gleesman's freedom marks the 3rd release of an American prisoner of the Taliban since January, following Ryan Corbett and William McKinney, in exchange for a prisoner swap arranged by the Biden administration. The question is, will the coming days see more of Americans being released and repatriated? Well, that only time will tell. India's Ministry of Defence has approved a major leap forward in strengthening the country's military capabilities. The Defence Acquisition Council, led by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, has given the green light to 8 key proposals totaling a staggering rupees 54,000 crore. That's around 23 billion US dollars. Among the major highlights is the upgrade of the T-90 tanks These third-generation battle tanks manufactured by Russia to replace the older T-72 series will now feature 1,350 horsepower engines, up from the current 1,000 horsepower. This enhancement is expected to dramatically improve their performance, especially in high-altitude terrains like Ladakh and Sikkim, where thin air often compromises engine efficiency. The tank's increased power-to-weight ratio will also strengthen its battlefield mobility, making them faster and more agile in challenging conditions. According to reports, the upgraded engines will also enhance its ability to maneuver across mountains and riverine regions, ensuring better acceleration, climbing capacity, and overall operational effectiveness. Faster repositioning during combat means reduced exposure to enemy fire, giving Indian forces a crucial edge in high-stakes scenarios. Another major approval is for airborne early warning and control aircraft systems for the Indian Air Force. Currently, the Air Force operates two such platforms known as Netra. These systems, often described as game changers in modern warfare, serves as airborne radars capable of detecting and tracking aircraft, ships, vehicles, missiles. And according to reports, they not only provide real-time command and control, but also enhance the effectiveness of other weapon systems in combat. Well, for the Indian Navy, the Council has sanctioned the procurement of Varunastra torpedoes designed specifically for anti-submarine warfare. These heavyweight torpedoes can be deployed against enemy submarines in both shallow and deep waters. Launched from specialized ships, they add a formidable layer of protection to India's maritime defense. From tanks to torpedoes and cutting-edge surveillance, India is not just reinforcing its military might, but also signaling its readiness to meet emerging security challenges. There's a raging debate in financial circles if US President Donald Trump's open embrace of cryptos is right. Global discussions are about the conflict of interest or ethical conundrum and whether this sets the stage for a crisis. And on Friday, Trump's son, Eric, was appointed as the advisor by the Japanese Bitcoin investment company MetaPlanet. He will be a part of the company's newly formed board of advisors. Eric Trump is already an advocate of digital asset adoption and has expressed strong optimism about the future of cryptocurrency. Bank of France's chief, François Villeroy de Gallo, warned that the US's encouragement of crypto and non-bank financing could trigger the next financial crisis. However, he did not clarify exactly how that would happen. Well, the ECB Governing Council member said that the United States risks sinning through negligence. He added, financial crises often originate in the United States and spread to the rest of the world. By encouraging crypto assets and non-bank finance, the American administration is sowing the seeds of future upheavals. Meanwhile, Villeroy said that there is no danger of a banking catastrophe in the European Union. He noted that supervision was better protected in the euro area. However, according to the Bank of France chief, the euro should play a larger role on the global stage. Villeroy also warned about tariff wars and said Donald Trump seems to harbor the false vision that the global economy is a zero-sum game. Well, Trump's U-turn to embrace cryptos just before he started his campaign for the US presidency last year is a well-documented story. We all know that. But since taking office, his other economic broadsides like tariffs, they have weighed on the digital assets sector. According to CoinGecko, crypto markets shed over $1 billion after Trump's 200% win and spirits import tax on the European Union. Market uncertainty reigns as investors brace for more tariffs. Bitcoin is down more than 20% off its all-time high on Trump's inauguration day of over $109,000. Conflict of interest is another charge on Trump. In January, Axios called Trump a cryptic billionaire after his meme coins worth jumped to $58 billion, while his meme coins price has crashed from a high of over $65 to almost about $11. Investors can still buy it. Separately, Blockwork reported that Trump has amassed nearly $84 million in revenue from his crypto holdings over the last year or so. These crypto earnings have experts question his embrace of the crypto sector.
Roberts.
All right, a major controversy has hit Tollywood as the Telangana police has filed an FIR implicating 25 Tollywood stars and influencers for allegedly promoting illegal betting, casino and gambling platforms. Among the high-profile names are actors Rana Daggubati, Prakash Raj and Vijay Deverakonda. The FIR claims these platforms use star endorsements to attract users through online ads, adding that these apps enticed individuals, particularly from middle class and lower middle class backgrounds, into gambling. The FIR further highlights that many families have suffered severe financial hardships due to addiction to these platforms. Actor Prakash Raj responded to the allegation, stating that his involvement was limited to an ad campaign in 2016, which he ended within a year's time. The actor added that he is currently gathering more information about the case. And in a post from his official account on Instagram, Prakash Raj said that he is yet to be contacted by Telangana police on that matter.
Well, just now from here I came to know on the social media and certain media talking about the betting app ad I did. And I asked questions to everybody and I need to answer too. So this is my answer. I have not received anything from the police station or any summons as such, and when it does, I will definitely reply them. But I think it's my responsibility to reply and clear things for you.
Meanwhile, Rana Daggubati's team clarified that his association with a gaming platform was strictly legal. According to a spokesperson, his endorsement of skill-based games ended in 2017 and was confined to regions where such activities were legally permitted, emphasizing that Rana's legal team carefully vets all contracts to ensure compliance with the law. The spokesperson also highlighted that the Supreme Court has distinguished skill-based games from gambling, recognizing them as legal, adding that Rana's endorsements were in line with these regulations. Meanwhile, actor Vijay Deverakonda said that he only promoted legal skill-based gaming platforms. Incidentally, this also comes just a few months after actor Allu Arjun was arrested in December after a woman died in the chaos that ensued at the launch of his movie Pushpa 2 in Hyderabad. Arjun's arrest had led to widespread criticism from the movie industry. Now, as the investigation unfolds in the betting scandal, the spotlight continues to remain on the stars that were involved in this. Our next story is about Sudan. It is in crisis and the world is not even talking about it. Today, the Sudanese military has retaken the presidential palace, which is the seat of the government in capital Khartoum. This is a major victory for them. After almost 2 years of a brutal civil war, which the United Nations has described as the world's largest and most devastating humanitarian crisis, Friday's victory is perhaps the army's most symbolic, since they launched a key counter-offensive against the paramilitary rapid support forces in September last year. However, the war is far from over. The RSF still controls large parts of Khartoum as well as other regions, posing a formidable challenge to the Sudanese army. This is a brutal conflict with mass displacement, famine and genocide. The crisis in Sudan is spiraling out of control. More than 11 million people have been forced from their homes. Children as young as 1 are being subjected to horrific violence, and entire communities are being wiped out. Yet, as the world focuses on Ukraine and Gaza, Sudan's suffering is largely ignored. Here's what you should be knowing about one of the deadliest crises taking place in Africa on Friday. The Sudanese army soldiers were seen hoisting their weapons and celebrating outside the country's presidential palace in Khartoum. Video released by the Sudanese army showed the army personnel inside the presidential palace. And Friday's developments were one of the most significant advances in the 2-year-old conflict that has threatened to fracture the country. The building was the last heavily guarded RSF bastion in the city. A spokesperson for the Sudanese military said, Brigadier General Nabil Abdullah said in a video statement posted on social media that the army has crushed fighters from the rapid support forces and retaken the Republican Palace, which he described as a symbol of sovereignty and dignity of the Sudanese nation. But will this war end? The short answer to that question is unlikely. The military victory in Khartoum will likely just move the war in Sudan into a new chapter. You see, the RSF in a statement on its social media account said that the battle for the palace has not ended yet, as its forces were still in the vicinity of the area. The rebel group said its forces have attacked members of the military inside the palace. The RSF also still controls major areas in other parts of the country, including the western Darfur region, which means that fighting has just created a de facto partition of Sudan into military and RSF-run zones. The war erupted in April 2023 between the military and the RSF. Battles raged in Khartoum and around the country. The leaders of the two forces, who had been allies, were meant to have overseen the democratic transition after a popular uprising in 2019. But what happened instead was a bloody fight for power between the RSF and military. Since then, at least 28,000 people have been killed, though the number is likely far higher. The war has driven more than 14 million people from their homes and pushed parts of the country into famine. The war has made Sudan the worst humanitarian crisis in the world. The numbers are staggering. The World Health Organization says at least 20,000 people have so far been killed in the war in Sudan. Other estimates put the toll to 150,000. According to UN figures, at least 10 million people in Sudan have been forced from their homes, making it the world's largest displacement crisis. In August last year, a UN-backed assessment declared a famine in the Zamzam refugee camp located in the western Darfur region, largely controlled by RSF paramilitary. According to a recent report by the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, RSF fighters had detained at least 10,000 people in Khartoum since the start of the war until June last year. With the military and the RSF, they are accused of abuses. But RSF has been accused of various other atrocities. In January, the outgoing Biden administration imposed sanctions on Burhan, Sudan's army chief, and the RSF head, Hemedti. The RSF grew out of the notorious Janjaweed militias mobilized 2 decades ago by then-President Omar al-Bashir against populations that rather identify as Central or East African in Darfur. The Janjaweed were accused of mass killings, rapes and other atrocities. The RSF now operates as a well-equipped and rather highly strong force, relying on guerrilla warfare tactics. Unlike the Sudanese military, which controls the country's air force and heavy artillery, the RSF specializes in urban combat, ambushes and hit-and-run attacks. Now, the army in Sudan captures of the presidential palace raises fears that Sudan is increasingly approaching a de facto partition. The RSF is already backing a parallel government and remains in control of 4 of the 5 regions in the sprawling region of Darfur. Experts on Sudan say that Sudan appears to be heading to a Libya scenario, referencing the split in governance between the 2 competing authorities who are aligned with the web of armed groups and militias. What about peace, if you wonder? The army has long refused to engage in peace talks with the RSF and has repeatedly said it plans to recapture the entire country. How long that takes, that's anybody's guess. For now, one of the biggest worry with Sudan is whether it faces a second partition. Let me ask you a question. How would you feel if AI wrote, edited, and even anchored your daily dose of news from the scratch? Well, regardless of how you take it, it is closer to reality than you think. Case in point is this Italian newspaper, which is printing a fully AI-generated edition for a whole month. That's right. In a world first, Italian newspaper El Foglio has deployed AI to do the job of what a newsroom full of journalists do in and day out. And mind you, this is not just 1 or 2 pages we are talking about, but an entire edition of the broadsheet to be curated by AI on a daily basis, ranging from writing articles to crafting headlines. You must be wondering, what about those in action then, who put their blood, sweat and tears in churning out credible news pieces for you? Will their jobs be taken for good? Well, not quite. As per the editor of the newspaper, the journalist will only be asking questions to the AI tool and reading and refining the answers it generates. Quite a feat there, so to say, seeking to tap into the best of both. But what exactly is the rationale behind all this? Well, according to the director of the paper, such a model will be launched on an experimental basis, but with an aim to apparently strengthen journalism, not to kill it. Easier said than done. For in recent times, newsrooms across the world have been showing an increased inclination towards AI for giving fast and error-free content consumed by millions. However, this is often being done at the cost of their own resources. Who treat news and views with the individual sense of the world using real-time intelligence? Earlier this month, the BBC News reportedly declared using AI to give the public more of personalized content and taking cues from it. Other portals too are branching out to AI-centric options. But here's the thing. Does AI understand that journalism is serious social responsibility, where journalists could very well be held accountable for what they write or report on? What about journalistic values? Can AI imbibe them? You see, journalists in real world are often confronted with ethical dilemmas while exposing the fault lines within a system, an organization, or just subjects. But as duty comes calling, the job of a journalist is his or her commitment to truth. Is AI even trained to take that call by itself? Therefore, the question of the hour is journalism even sustainable without a human touch to it? Is machine-generated storytelling equipped to handle the intricacies and nuances of a story that is perhaps best told by someone who is a direct or an indirect witness to the event in question? All said and done, long way to go in mastering the art of putting out perspectives that are not just perfect, but humane as well. And that's all that we could pack in today's edition of Gravitas. We're slipping into a very short break now. Thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching WION World is One. Stay tuned.
Watch me on Token Money Magnet, where I decode tokenization for you only on WION.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of